Hi, Jenny here with Free Strip. I will be making Blue Meridian soap today, and this is a very masculine, very pretty fragrance. Um, yeah. So per usual, you already know how this goes. My liquid state oils with additives. This is my hard state oils that have been melted on a hot plate. Then over on the other side, I do have my, right here, I do have my lye solution with additives of sugar, sodium lactate, and silk. Keep watching and enjoy this video. Please do well to like, share, subscribe, follow, all the good stuff. In my previous video, I did talk about colorants, and this video I want to talk about fragrance. And fragrance is very interesting. A lot of people have many different opinions about how to or how not to fragrance your soap. There are usually two classes of soapers. There are the essential only groups of people, and then there are the everything else group of people. And when I say everything else, I mean the fragrance oil people who sometimes would use essential oils, maybe not. It's all depends on the day. And I actually fall into that category. There are soapers who state that they are all natural, they only use essential oils, and they're fragrance free in the sense that they don't use any fragrance because those are created in the labs and things like that, which that's not wrong. But the thing is, fragrance has been given a lot of bad name. And then there are a lot of people who have really assumed that bad name and just don't mess with anything that is made with fragrance oils. And the truth is, there's nothing wrong with fragrance oils as long as you are sourcing correctly. These days, fragrance chemists and companies have come a long way, and it's kudos to society. So all this actually does make society better, and it causes reforms and changes, and we see it in every facet of life, including the fragrance industry. So the fragrance industry has come a very long way. And this is why I say make sure you are sourcing correctly. I cannot stress correct sourcing too much, because that is going to be the backbone of the quality and the type of product you use. Even if you're just making so for yourself, honestly, it's going to really affect that. And you need to source correctly. Source from reputable companies. Source from companies who are making for specific industries, because fragrances are of many different types and for many different things. Not all fragrance is soap safe. Not all fragrance is skin safe. In the sense that depending on the part of your skin, meaning like lip safe and all of that stuff. So you really need to understand what you're doing. So when I say fragrance has come a long way, many fragrances these days are phthalates free, and you do not want that on your skin. Many of them are California, Prop 64, compliant. You really want to be looking at the documentation. If you're going on Amazon, and I always use Amazon as an example because everything is on Amazon. If you're going on Amazon to go source your fragrance, and whomever is selling that fragrance to you cannot provide you documentation, IFRA guidelines, for you to understand what has been approved for safe usage for whatever it is you're doing, because IFRA guidelines will give you safe usage for all classes, all categories, from one through however many categories they are, and they're also subcategories. For soap, it's a 9. So an IFRA regulation changes. It changes every many years. So you need to be able to get that documentation. You really need to be looking at those, especially when you're starting out or this is a new fragrance to you. You know, you need to know what is the low maximum usage and what's the the maximum usage, and you go from there. It's very important to know what it is that you're using, what is being said about that product, what has the manufacturer first of said about their product. Now, if they haven't said much, they've said everything you need to know. If they haven't said enough, they have said a lot. So take that, and move on. And I source from, companies that curate for and cater for the soap and candle industry. So I go with Nurture Handmade. I go with Wholesale Supplies Plus, Nature Garden Craft, Brambleberry, Fragrance Buddy. Where else do I shop from? So I go with these reputable companies, and the good thing about them is you can get in small quantities. When I say small quantities, I think you can get in those little testers, so that you can just buy to test like a really small batch. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. It doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. You haven't really invested that much. Very important for you to understand what the fragrance is. And that's why I don't shy away from fragrance oils, because I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm using. I make sure that when I'm using a fragrance, it is phthalate free. Not all fragrance are, even from these companies. So you really need to be looking at the fine print to see what's been said. Also look at what they have said about how the fragrance acts and reacts within the soap, because many of these companies always like put a cold process testing report, not necessarily report, but it's kind of like they test it and then they put like a short paragraph as to what they experience with their basic recipe. And some of these companies also share what that basic recipe was, how much they use how much olive oil, how much palm oil, how much coconut oil, and this is what the result they got just based on their basic recipe or formula rather. This is not cooking formula. So now when I also make with essential oils, and I love essential oils. There are a few things, rather, not many, but there are a few things you can do to make your essential oils stick in your soap. That's what people do complain about when you use essential oils. Like the soap don't keep for really long and retain its scent the way it did from day one. And I've experienced that too. However, how long your soap lasts also depends on how you anchored your fragrance. So that's also one thing to keep in mind. Very important with essential oils, because everybody thinks, oh, it's essential oil, it's natural, because of course it's from plants. It's distilled or whatever from plants, or extracted from plants. Everyone thinks essential oils are the greatest, and they're great. But as good as they are, they can also be very mean. It's very, very, not all essential oils are skin safe as well. Very important. And just as important as this, you know your usage rate for fragrance oil, it is extremely important to know your usage rate for essential oils. You do not want to be going above the usage rate, and the usage rate for essential oils are usually much lower than the maximum of many fragrance oils. There's a caveat there, and I'll get to it. And again, with essential oils, it is extremely important for you to know what not to use on whom. So, for example, a pregnant lady cannot use or should not use a rosemary essential oil. Very important. So, it is I can't really stress it enough. If you're selling and you're using fragrances that could cause one or two things in one or two certain people, and this is not just fragrances, anything at all, because there are people who are allergic to coconut. So coconut oil is one of the foundations of handmade soaps. You can always substitute it with babasu oil, but many, I would say 90% of handmade soaps have coconut oil in it. And so, there are people who are allergic to coconut, so they would not want to buy handmade soap that's made with coconut oil as one of its ingredients. However, when we're talking about very disruptive essential oils and whatnot, it's very important for you to make that note in your packaging on your website that this contains, my example is rosemary essential oil. If you're pregnant, I just prefer to be on the side of more caution than not. So it's extremely important. Now, when it comes to usage rates, and I'm speaking for both essential oil and fragrance oil, but I'm going to speak more to fragrance oil on this side of the topic, because when it comes to usage rate, when I see a soap, a fragrance oil, the IFRA says the maximum usage rate is maybe a 2% or 3%. I stay clear of that, because with such low usage rate, like, I start asking questions like, I cannot use as much, and there is definitely a reason, and will that fragrance really will last long, and all of that good. I just stay clear. Really low usage rate, not because it's harmful, but just because it's I don't think it's going to work for me. So I stay clear of that. Now, with essential oils, it is very common to see essential oils with usage rate of 3.5%. Now, you may want to ask, like, what if I want to combine essential oils? You don't want to go for what I would say. Another person could say it differently. I may be wrong, but this is my rule. The maximum usage rate of each, I would look at each of them, and which one has the lowest, I would not go below that one. So even if you're combining, I wouldn't go below that one. I could be wrong in the way I do it. Again, I prefer to stay on the side of caution, if you get my drift. So very important. And then another very important thing to do is to read reviews. Many of these suppliers have comment sections, and so many people write reviews. Read the reviews. See what people have said about how the fragrance acts or reacts in your soap. Look at the pictures of what they have experienced, and then you make your own educated decision as to whether you want to try it or not. Some companies don't have that much reviews. Honestly, like Fragrance Buddy, yeah, there aren't that many reviews on Fragrance Buddy fragrances. However, they are there, and they have fantastic fragrance. They really do have fantastic fragrance. I've been gradually getting more and more of their fragrance. But I just have to advise, read those reviews. Now, when it comes to getting your fragrance on Amazon, unless it's from like not your soap. I've never bought fragrance from Amazon, so I don't know which of these companies are there, but imagine they are on Amazon. Make sure it is from Not Your, like it's a Not Your Soap account, or Not Your Handmade. They used to be called Not Your Soap, Not Your Handmade's account. And before you buy it, I just don't. I just stay clear of generic fragrance oils or essential oils. They're going to make your soap seize. You're going to have problems. You're going to be on Facebook asking all the questions, and everyone is going to tell you, don't use crap fragrance oil that's made in China. You cannot find any documentation on it. And all of that. That's all we are going to be telling you on the Facebook groups and whatnot, because your formula was great, but you got the crap fragrance oil or crap colorants or something like that. These fragrance oils, honestly, when you're getting them in small portions, they're not that expensive. Honestly, they aren't that much more expensive than what you're getting on Amazon. Maybe you pay shipping. Amazon is free shipping, but then you lose a whole batch of soap. So this is just my 2 cents. Even for the homestead, or you're just making soap for yourself. I really do hope you try out. If there's anything else you want me to touch on, just for maybe knowledge sake, or maybe you want to try out making soap for yourself and your family, your friends, for gifting or whatever, go right ahead and let me know. And thank you for watching.